Welcome back to Sporty Mentality. My name is Tanner Schraring, aka Relay TS, and today I'm going to be discussing my top 20 quarterbacks going into the 2023 season. So, not like ranking them as where they are right now, going into the 2023 season where I think they're going to be. And I'm going to try to explain how I'm ranking them. I'm ranking them on if they came to the Colts and I wanted, and the Colts were going to build around them, or like, basically just saying like, if I had to build a team, where would I, which quarterback would I want and when would I want him? You know what I'm saying? Over who? Like if every single quarterback in the NFL was a free agent and I was a GM of a team, which quarterback would I want to build around? And that's how I ranked these quarterbacks. So like if 19 of them were taken, my 20th quarterback, I would want to build around him because the 19 in front of him were taken. You know what I'm saying? So I sort of ranked it on how I would want to build my team around, like who I would want to build my team around going into the 2023 season. And a lot of things are in factor here. I'll explain it as I go. But I did 20 because, the bottom 10, 12 quarterbacks are just like boring. And I'd say about 7 of them are going to get replaced or they're going to retire or whatever. But to start it off, I do have, obviously, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify or anywhere else you listen to podcasts, leave a 5-star review. But to start it off, I do have 3 honorable mentions. And this is, I guess, they're not in the top 20, so honorable mentions. Ryan Tannehill, I think he'll get cut by the Titans, and I don't know if he'll be picked back up. I think he might like go into a role where he was with the Dolphins, like. You know how he was on the Dolphins starting, and then like he basically dropped out of the league for like 2 years, came back, whatever. I think that'll probably happen with him. I don't think anybody's gonna sign him. Maybe a team that's tanking will sign him, but he wasn't bad. But I don't think he's gonna play next year. And if he does, it's not gonna be an exciting play to watch, or a game to watch. His games are boring. Matthew Stafford, I think he's going to retire. He had a back injury. That's my other honorable mention. And then my last honorable mention is Mac Jones. He just didn't make the cut, but I think he was close, so I put him on an honorable mentions list. Let me know what you think about those. Obviously, you can't really say anything until I go into my top 20. But to start it off here, at number 20, I have Kenny Pickett. In the second half of the season, Pickett was ranked 10th in EPA per play among quarterbacks with 150 plays. Pickett was, like, I feel like he started it off kind of slow. And then, like, as the season came on, I kind of warmed up to him. I kind of seen the potential that the Steelers had with him, and that if they put the right pieces around him, build the team around him, I think they could have their guy. He had a few concussions. He got hurt a few times, so that's kind of concerning. But if he can stay healthy, build around him, I think Kenny Pickett can be a guy for the Steelers. I mean, they went, 9-8, 8-1, something like that. Like, they didn't go under 500 because of Mike Tomlin's streak, and they did that with Kenny Pickett. So if they could do it this year, I think they can do it better next year. And then 19, I have Brock Purdy. I needed to see more Brock Purdy, and also this is going into the 2023 season, and obviously he tore his UCL, so that's going to hurt him. And he already has a weak arm. He doesn't have good throwing ability, and his accuracy, I believe, is like way overrated. People are saying like he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks they've seen. I feel like it's just overrated. He's just an average quarterback. Every quarterback can throw good passes and look good in 7 games. But I need to see more of him. I need to see how his arm heals. I need to see how strong his arm is after it heals. And for the times that we've seen him, I thought he was pretty good. He was solid. He was definitely a little bit overrated because of the situation that he was put in. But I thought he was pretty good. 19 over Kenny Pickett. I think that says something. I was gonna not put Brock Purdy on the list, but I put him on the list. So at number 18, I have Jimmy Garoppolo. There are a lot of things that Jimmy Garoppolo cannot do, but there are a lot of things that he can do, and that is be a system quarterback and provide value to a team. I mean, he got this he helped the 49ers get to the Super Bowl. They didn't win, obviously, but if he can do that, he can play in pretty much any team in this league and provide some value. I feel like my knock on Jimmy Garoppolo is He can't stay healthy, and he's just a system quarterback. He's nothing special. He'll do what you ask him to do, but if he was a do what you asked him to do guy with 100% healthy, he would be higher on this list. I think he would be, 13, 14, maybe even 12, but he cannot stay healthy. That's my huge knock on him. That knocks him down a few spots for me. So Jimmy Garoppolo, 18. He's a good player, but he has a lot of limitations with his injury issues. That's my take on him, at least. Number 17, this is where I might get some dislikes on the video. I might get a lot of hate comments. People are going to be like, why? What are you doing? What are you saying? Dak Prescott is number 17 for me. Hey, just be happy he made the top 20. This is going into the 2023 season. So going into the 2023 season, Dak Prescott will be 30 or 31, I believe. And I'm just going to read you this quote from the QB Power Rankings of 2022. He was ranked 6th on their list. And let me read you this quote, okay? Let me read you this quote. He still doesn't have the ball velocity to be consistent against tight windows, but he's improved his deep ball and is remarkably accurate. Add in slightly better decision making, and he will be a star one day. Are people forgetting something? This man is in his 30s. We've seen 7 freaking years of the same shit, and people are still saying that he's going to turn into a star. We know what Dak Prescott is. He's a system quarterback who makes... He's not a system quarterback, but he's a good quarterback who makes way too many mistakes, and he gets injured. So 2 knocks right there. I think he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's better than Brock Purdy. I think he's better than Kenny Pickett. But Dak Prescott, he has a good arm. He makes way too many stupid mistakes. I know he had a good game versus Tampa Bay, but that was versus Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay was by far the worst team in the playoffs. You've seen what he did versus the 49ers. I mean, he's a good quarterback, but these 16 people in front of him, I'm taking over him. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking him over, 15 other quarterbacks in the league that played this year, if that tells you anything. But I just, with the leading in the league in interceptions, getting into his 30s, I'm not taking a chance on him anymore. Like, I'm not saying, he'll turn into something soon. He's 30, 31. Okay, what are we saying here? What are we doing? Are we saying that he's going to enter his prime after he's been in his prime for seven years? And with the injuries adding up on his ankle, his movement's going to be his movement's going to get more limited as he gets older. But I still think he provides a lot of value to a team. I put him 17 on the list for a reason. If I had to build around Dak Prescott, I'd try to put the right pieces around him. I'd try to put him in the right system. And I'd put a coach with him that could help him make smarter decisions, and so he wouldn't lead the league in interceptions, because that's a problem. It's a big problem. So my big knock on Dak Prescott is interceptions and injuries. If he didn't have injuries, he'd probably be 13, 14 maybe. If he didn't have interceptions, I mean, this man would be top 10. If he didn't lead the league in interceptions and make stupid decisions, and I don't know. He'd be close to top 10, but he's 17 for me. Say what you want. I don't think I think the Cowboys should give him another year, and if he's solid next year, then give him another 2 years. But if he's the same or worse next year, I think it's time to move on from Dak Prescott, in my opinion. Unless they just want to be a first round exit, But if they want to be that, then hey. Go ahead. Now, I will say, Dak Prescott is a great guy. He won Walter Payton Man of the Year, he's a great guy, and he's good for the brand. He's good in interviews. He's well spoken. He's smart. So he's good for the Cowboys in the face of the franchise. But I'm saying, if I'm building a team around him and I want to play football, he's 17 on my list. That's all I got to say. Number 16 is Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins had 4,500 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions this year. He's a great system quarterback, but he makes too many mistakes. He's not clutch, and he had the best weapons in the league. So yeah, and he's getting up there in age too. So 32 or 33, I think he's 33, going into his 34th year or age 34 year. So I am taking age into a factor here, if you couldn't tell. Going to the next year. But, Kirk Cousins, I believe he has the edge over Dak Prescott because he makes slightly smarter decisions, although he did have 14 interceptions. But the thing is, though, Kirk Cousins, he had the best weapon in the league. He had Justin Jefferson. I mean, he's by far the best wide receiver in the league. So the one thing I will say about Kirk Cousins is I feel like he would have done better in the playoffs and just in general if he would have had a good defense, but he didn't. So I will give him that edge, but he's just a system quarterback, complimentary quarterback, and sometimes he can't play that role. So he's 16 for me. That's all I got to say about Kirk Cousins. I mean, you can say what you want. It's Kirk Cousins. There's not really much else to say. Number 15, Jared Goff. So Kirk Cousins' stats were 4,500, 29, and 14. Jared Goff's stats were 4,500, 29, and 7. He's not an exciting quarterback, but he gets the job done. I feel like my knock on Jared Goff, though, is the reason he's 15 is he's not a winning quarterback. I don't know what else to say. He just doesn't know how to win. He never has. But, if I had to build around him, I wouldn't be disappointed. He's a great quarterback. He has a good arm. He doesn't make as many stupid mistakes as Cousins and Prescott, but, he just somehow hasn't figured out how to win. And he also has an amazing supporting cast over there at the Lions. I feel like they can do some good things over there with him, though. I feel like they can do some good things over him. I'm just taking these next 14 over Jared Goff. There's not really much else to say about him. He's just not, insanely amazing, but he's solid, and that's why he's number 15. Number 14. This I'm also probably gonna get some hate from this because of how bad he was in 2022. But I'm going to put Russell Wilson at number 14. And I'm only putting him there because he got a new coach, and I believe Sean Payton will help him improve. Sean Payton is one of the greatest coaches of all time. And he was on Fox, right, with Colin Cowherd, and he was explaining how he would, improve Russell Wilson. And he had, he basically, explained a game plan. And this was before he got hired by the Broncos. So I'm confident that Sean Payton will improve Russell Wilson, and maybe he can go into not old Russ. I don't think we'll ever see Seahawks Russ, but I think we could see a Russ where he's a top 14 quarterback, basically. I mean, in the last game or two when Hackett was fired, he was pretty solid. But we can see that Russ, I think he will be top 15. So basically I'm taking a gamble here. He's going to be 34, I believe, but he's going to have Sean Payton. That's why I'm putting him at 14 over Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, and Dak Prescott. So say what you want. I think that's a pretty solid spot for Russell. Coming in at number 13, I have Derek Carr. I might get some hate for this too because he's literally got cut by his own team. But in his 9 years playing for the Raiders, he hasn't had a top 25 defense, I don't believe, or at least 7 out of those 9 years. He hasn't had a top 25 defense, so he's had a bottom defense in the league pretty much his whole entire career. And on top of that, and I think this is more important, he's been through 7 different coaches. Okay? 7 different coaches. Derek Carr, from what I've seen with him, he's gonna be 32 going to next year, I believe, maybe 33. I think 32. I think this is going to be, he's going to be 32 because I think he's 31 right now. He's turning 32 in March, so he'll be 32 going into next year. He has one of the best arms in the league. We've seen him at the Pro Bowl. I mean, this guy can still sling it. I feel like if you put him in the right system with a good defense, he can bring you to the playoffs, no problem. Okay? No problem. And I'm going to give you a situation where he would win the playoffs with a good defense. The Carolina Panthers. They have a offensive-minded coach, Frank Reich, just hired him. They have DJ Moore? Yeah, DJ Moore, wide receiver. So he has a solid weapon and a great defense. So I feel like if you put Derek Carr in that situation, he will get you to the playoffs. He will win you to the division. I mean, look at who's in Carolina's division. The Saints, the Falcons, and the Buccaneers. All 3 of those teams do not have a quarterback on this top 20 list. Maybe they draft someone, but I feel like if you put Derek Carr in that division, he wins and he gets you to the playoffs, and he plays good, and that's why he's number 13 on my list. I feel like Derek Carr can still play. Maybe I'm in the minority there, but hey, he's on my list. Number 12, Daniel Jones. This is another one where like the numbers don't really say that much, but the fact that I think he has a lot of potential, I think that's why I put him at number 12. He had 3,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, but he also had 700 rushing yards and seven touchdowns. Daniel Jones got the Giants to the playoffs with his number one wide receiver being, I can't even name you him. What was it? We know his number one wide receiver is. Darius Slayton. Pretty sure that was the number one. It would be Sterling Shepard, guys. If he wasn't injured, it would be Sterling. Sterling Shepard would be a number 3 on literally any team in the league, besides the Giants and maybe the Ravens. So the fact that he had no weapons besides Saquon Barkley, and he got the Giants to the playoffs and played pretty solid and showed sparks of being that guy. Daniel Jones is number 12 on my list, and he's young and he has a lot of potential. And I would love to build around Daniel Jones personally. But yeah, so that's why Daniel Jones is on my list. I'm high on Daniel Jones, obviously. Some people are going to be saying, how would you take Daniel Jones over Dak Prescott? Well, if you're asking me to build a team over the next 5 years, I'm taking Daniel Jones over Dak Prescott. Aging Prescott, making bad decisions, coming off a bad year. Daniel Jones, young, in his prime, coming off a good year. Boom. I mean, I feel like that's your answer. All right, we got Geno Smith at number 11. After an incredibly hot start to the season, Smith's limitations have come to the fore, but there hasn't been a collapse. He's a good quarterback that has added explosiveness, deep ball playmaking to his game. That's what the QB Power Ranking said about him. Geno Smith had 4,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and 100 passer rating. Geno Smith was a very solid quarterback this year, and I feel like if he can replicate this season but have a more consistent, instead of like declining a little bit, have a more consistent, maybe even an incline over 2023, he will be the 11th best quarterback in the league as far as like, building around him. He's 30. He's going to be in this 30. He's going to be 33 next year. But I feel like that doesn't matter. I mean, he's gotten better with age. He's matured. And his game does not rely on him being extremely athletic. He has an amazing arm, and that arm will be there for a few more years. So I think the Seahawks got the quarterback, got their guy, Geno Smith, comeback player of the year, and he's number 11 for me, and I do not regret putting him there, honestly. Number 10, Kyler Murray. We know what Kyler Murray is. He's a great quarterback, great athleticism. He has a decent arm, pretty good arm. But my biggest knock on him, he would be high on this list. He honestly might be like 8 or 7 if he didn't have an attitude problem and he was like more consistent. And obviously injuries. But he just, there was hardly any coaches that wanted to coach for the Cardinals because of Kyler Murray. You know what I'm saying? Like Sean Payton wouldn't go to Cardinals because of Kyler Murray. If that tells you anything about him, that's my big knock on him. We know who Kyler Murray is. He's a good quarterback, but if he just would, play the damn game and like cooperate with how the Cardinals want to run their team, I feel like he'd be in a much better situation there. But he's number 10 on my list. That's how talented he is. I have a knock on him, but he's still number 10. Number 9, Justin Fields. Justin Fields just blew me out of the water this year. I thought he was a bust. I thought he was just whatever. But with having absolutely zero, you want to talk about not having weapons. I think the Bears had worse weapons than the Giants. I mean, after having zero weapons with the Chicago Bears, I mean, Justin Fields running for 1,300 yards and just purely tearing up teams' defenses. If you put this guy in the right situation, he is 100% a top 9 quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. If I would love for the Colts to trade for Justin Fields, I'm telling you that right now. Trader number 4, I don't give a shit. This man can ball. And I feel like if you put him in the right situation, Justin Fields is going to be that guy. He's going to be a dog. He's going to be a franchise player. And I loved him watching him this season. I thought he was great. Showed the potential. Had horrible weapons. He's on the Chicago Bears. That's pretty much all you gotta know. He was just put in a shit situation. And I feel like if you put him in the right situation, he will be And he's young. He's young, so that helps him on this list as well. Because, like I said, I'm basing it off going into next season, building around him, that type of stuff. Speaking of young, we got an old quarterback at number 8, Aaron Rodgers. Although he's going to be 39, I believe Aaron Rodgers, if he's put in the right situation with a good O-line, good weapons, and a solid defense, he can bring you to the Super Bowl. I said it, Super Bowl, okay? Let me just remind you. So many people are saying, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers fell off. He's not the same." This man he's just not the same. He's just not the same. Did you watch the Packers? Watch him, dude. And his stats were not as good. This, that, and the other. The Packers fell off. He fell off. He declined throughout the season. He's getting old. If I have to hear one more person talk shit about Aaron Rodgers and saying that he fell off, I'm going to lose my goddamn mind. I'm just being honest. I mean, look at his weapons. They're horrible. Like, on par with Justin Fields and Daniel Jones' weapons. Any single wide receiver on the Packers would not even be close to a number 1 on any other team outside of the Giants and the Bears. Wouldn't even be close. And the Ravens. Wouldn't even be close. His weapons are horrible. And on top of that, he played with a broken thumb for like 6, 7, 8 weeks, and it probably lingered on the whole entire season. So I am not with the Aaron Rodgers hate. Obviously, I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers fan, though. A lot of people just don't like him for what he says. I personally love him for what he says, so that could be like, a lot of people would disagree with me on that. But as far as like a pure football player, I feel like he just had horrible weapons, played through an injury, just wasn't the ideal situation. I feel like if he does come back, if he doesn't retire, which I don't think he will, and he gets put in the right situation, this man can still ball and be a top 8 quarterback in the league. But if he's put in the right situation, he's a top 5 quarterback, in my opinion, at 39. He's a top 3 most talented quarterback I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes. This man is 40 and could throw 70 yards on his back foot. He said it himself on the podcast. I mean, it's just you don't see talent like this anymore. And I feel like in the right situation, Aaron Rodgers is him. Lamar Jackson is number 7. I feel like injuries, consistency is the only knock on him. We know what Lamar Jackson is, the greatest running quarterback of all time. Has a good arm. Doesn't have any weapons besides Mark Andrews. So, I feel like if he stays healthy, he is, top 5 quarterback in the league, undoubtedly. I would love for the Colts to trade for him as well. The Falcons are on that list as well. I want him to get out of Baltimore though. I want Lamar Jackson to get out of Baltimore. I feel like that's limiting his potential. But he's only 25, 26. He's young. He's really young. So he has a lot of good years in him. If he can stay healthy though, that's a knock, of course. But when you have a play style like that, when you're a literal Madden player out on the field, you're gonna have a lot of injury issues. But he's number 7, and I feel like that's a good spot for him. Number 6, Trevor Lawrence. Now, I know, first few years weren't ideal, but he also had Urban Meyer as his coach. As soon as Doug Peterson came in there, we've seen a whole new, different quarterback. Trevor Lawrence got better throughout the year. Pretty sure after the Thanksgiving week, he was the best quarterback statistically in the NFL, passer rating, stats, all that stuff. And he led like one of the most historic comebacks of all time in the Chargers game. I know he had 4 interceptions in the first half, and he was a big part of the reason why they were down. But he led that comeback. He showed everybody that he's that guy. He can have that clutch gene. He's young. He's talented. He's huge. Amazing arm. I mean, if you gave me the option to pick Trevor Lawrence to build around him next year, he'd be my number 6 option. There's not really much else to say. We know what Trevor Lawrence is. But a lot of people still think he's the guy who, 2 years ago. He's not. He's a whole different quarterback because of Doug Peterson, and I think they have something special there in Jacksonville. And I'm actually scared for Trevor Lawrence being in the Colts division. I do not want to face him twice a year personally. But, it is what it is, I guess. Number 5 is probably going to get me some hate as well because this team does have a huge fan base. but it's Josh Allen. But number 5 is still really good. He's still a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Okay, so don't be giving me that much hate. Josh Allen has an insane arm, insane talent. He just can't seem to consistently win, and his turnovers got worse this year. His decision making got worse this year. I don't know what else to say. As soon as Brian Daboll left, we've seen his numbers drop. I feel like if he can find a way to limit his turnovers in 2023, Josh Allen will go back to being a top 3 quarterback in my eyes. But if he can't, and he's still just this guy who can throw the ball 100 yards and, run like a top 5 running back, but he makes those stupid decisions in huge moments, he's not going to be top 3 for me. But if he can brush up on the turnovers, you know what I'm saying. Josh Allen, number 5. I feel like that's a fair spot for him this year. I feel like a lot of you guys would agree, considering what we've seen from Jalen Hurts, who's number 4 in the Super Bowl. I think we've seen one of the greatest Super Bowl performances ever. He was fantastic. He was not the reason they lost that game. But Jalen Hurts, from what I've seen in the Super Bowl, gave me a lot of hope going into next year. And also, it's not even just like, obviously he's a great quarterback. And how bad the Eagles were without him in 2022 was insane. Like the Eagles, I'm pretty sure, lost like most of the games that he was out. Like when they had Gardner Minshew in there, who isn't a bad quarterback, they were not the same team. But when Jalen Hurts is in there, they were just incredible. And unbeatable until the Super Bowl came around. But Jalen Hurts is obviously a fantastic quarterback and has everything that you want in a quarterback in him, right? But also off the field, I mean, this man is a leader. And Nick Sirianni is one of my least favorite coaches in NFL history. I do not like him. I despise him, actually. He used to be on the Colts, and he talked trash to Colts players when he came back and faced them and barely beat us. This year when the Colts had Matt Ryan, he was talking trash or whatever. And at the Super Bowl, Nick Sirianni was like talking trash mid-game to the opposing team or something, like a few players on the Chiefs. And Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni was like pointing at them or whatever, laughing, and Jalen Hurts like knocked his arm down and said, "Hey, don't do that." Like when you have a 24-year-old, 23-year-old telling your coach to shut up and mature, like that's when you know you have a guy. But yeah, I hate Nick Sirianni, but that's just, I don't hate him. I just highly dislike him. But that's just an example of how good Jalen Hurts' character is and what you need in a leader, what you need in a quarterback. And they have a guy there, and they should pay him whatever he wants. Write it down. Don't even argue. Don't even negotiate. Just pay Jalen Hurts, because it's rare to find a guy like that. But he's number 4. Number 3 is Justin Herbert. Do I got to say anything? 6'6", insane arm, good accuracy, just in a horrible situation. Hopefully he can get, he got he's getting a new offensive coordinator, so hopefully that helps him. But I think they need a new head coach as well. He's going to lose a few weapons too. I'm pretty sure he's going to lose Keenan Allen. Hopefully they can get him some more weapons, and weapons that aren't hurt all the time. But yeah. Justin Herbert is just an insane human of a person, and quarterback-wise, the talent is all there. He just needs to be put in the right situation. I don't really have much else to say about him. Number 2, Joe Burrow. His accuracy has increased. He's insane under the pocket. He's a winner. Joe Burrow is him, and the only reason he's not winning is because number 1 is he has to face number 1 every single year in the playoffs, and that's Patrick Mahomes. So, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, those are my top 3. I feel like it's Patrick Mahomes here, Joe Burrow here, Justin Herbert, and then everybody else is there's a pretty big gap between Herbert and everyone else. But I feel like Mahomes is substantially better than Burrow, and then Herbert and Burrow are pretty close, and then, it goes down from there. That's in my opinion. But that's my top 20 ranking of the NFL quarterbacks. I don't really have any regrets. Let me know what you would move, what you would change, what some of your counter arguments are. I know there's going to be a lot of counter arguments for like Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, probably Derek Carr, people like that. But I don't really regret any of these. This is my list on if I was given a team and had to pick a quarterback to build around. These are my top 20 guys I would consider. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on anywhere else, leave a 5-star review. And have a great rest of your day, guys. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.